Good morning, and welcome everyone. We have a big vocal team here. I would like to call the meeting to order, noting that Ted and I are in person, Jack is on Zoom. And I need approval of the agenda.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I've received no public comments. And so the first agenda item is the Heritage Elementary School, which we are very happy. I got a lovely tour the other morning. Thank you, Monica. And so Steve, you want to give us a little update?
So today we're going to cover Heritage, and then we're going to shift to the new middle school. Then we're going to shift to the high school in Bethel Circle, and then we're going to finish the meeting on district-wide capital maintenance projects. Rebecca, would you mind opening up the second attachment under Heritage? So last week, the Vogel team presented the district with this document at our construction meeting. So this is a major milestone, obviously, in the construction process for a new building. So Rich handed it to us, the certificate of use of occupancy, which allowed us to then continue the week with the move-in process that we coordinated on Thursday and Friday, which was quite a event to see that go on. I thought it would be a good opportunity to have Rich and the team that helped us get to this point come and talk a little bit about this milestone of hitting the occupancy permit and what it took to get there. I mean, you've heard me reference 7/31 as a date for the last 14 months. Certainly easier to say than to do, but that's the team that pulled it off. So I just want to turn it over to Rich, and he'll introduce the team. He'll talk about their role in this process. And then we'll ask them to talk a little bit about what they're doing in August, the punch list and how that looks and what the process looks like and how we're going to get ready for the first day of school. So Rich?
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you, Steve. You want us to stay back here?
You wanted to come up here or?
I'd like to see Rich closer. We haven't had you at a meeting for a while.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure to be here, especially this morning to share such good news. Yeah, it's with a lot of pride and a lot of humility. I sit before you here today, and it was an absolute honor. You know, we sat here 18, 20 months ago almost and talked about that substantial completion date being 7/31. We had just an unbelievable local inspection team that, along with obviously the work we put in place, that partnered up with us. We met with them several times beforehand to get an understanding of their expectations and what they wanted to see in place. And the two people that I'm referencing specifically are Dave Bieno, the local building inspector, and then Battalion Chief Brian Adler from the Waunakee Fire Department. They were instrumental in helping us understand expectations and what things needed to be in place to achieve that. So we actually achieved it. We actually were emailed the certificate of occupancy on the 30th, a day before the 31st, obviously, but knowing that we had no AC meeting that following day, we chose to just share the good news with everybody on that day. So I can't even begin. I would like to introduce my team, and then maybe I can talk, or the team rather, and then I can talk a little bit more about some of the things we accomplished. But without the people behind me, there's no way we're here where we're here. It wasn't at times without tension, but I'm so happy, Joan, that you noticed the fact that we are still laughing, because it was a challenging project, but one of the things we made sure we did on a daily basis is have fun. And I think we accomplished that in a lot of respects. Maybe not every day, maybe not quite every day, but certainly a lot more days than not, right? And when you take on a challenge like this, it's important, in my opinion, to keep that vein of communication open, I guess, if you will. So without further ado, starting down here, I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves, and then a little bit about their roles and responsibilities on the project, please.
Grant Adelson, project engineer for Fuller Brothers. I'm a big communication dual between the the architect and people on site.
Oh, he does so much more than that. My name is Waunakee. I am a project assistant, Vogel Brothers Building Company. A main part of my job is dealing with documentation, things of that nature. I am also there to help Rich with change orders, and budgetary things, budgetary items.
I'm here, project accountant on this project and all of the school departments.
Brian Georgi, the project superintendent, gonna take care of day-to-day things on the site, scheduling, managing subcontractors and our own self-performer. For conjunction with Tom and Rich, make sure things are happening day-to-day and people are there when they need to be and get done what they need to get done. And then on top of that, keep an eye on safety and manage safety throughout the site, all subcontractors and our own folks.
Tom Rowley, I was the foreman underneath Brian out there, he was my boss, and I guess my job is to get the work done that needs to get done and on time and also safety is everybody's job. Try to help Brian as much as I could.
Thank you, everybody. Very humble group, as you can see. All of them do so much more, Brant, just intimately involved in, I mean, down in the weeds, figuring out, you know, the questions as it relates to RFIs and submittals and things like that. And Monica actually went from project assistant on this project to project engineer. So she's grown enormously in her role. Erin, Compier, having another set of eyes, and she was out there actually a minimum of once a week, and she and I would shoulder up on the accounting things to make sure things were balancing. Having another set of eyes out there when you're managing this many subs and this many dollars was tremendously helpful. And Tom Rowley, what he brings to the table, the talent set and skill set that Tom Rowley brings to the table is second to none. As far as being able to put concrete in, foundations, and it is such a blessing to be able to shoulder up with a guy like that and learn from a guy like that. And then lastly, Brian Bjorgi. Without Brian's, most of the time, steady hand on the tiller, to coin a phrase from Pete Vogel. What he had to manage out there and the balls that he had to juggle on a daily basis. At peak time, 130, 140 tradespeople, unbelievably talented tradespeople that put in just a level of quality of work that is second to none. But Brian Bjorgi, what he brought to the table for this project, his attitude, embracing the enthusiasm that the community brought around this project. We could not have had a better superintendent on this project. Waunakee Community School District could not have had a better superintendent on this project than Brian Georgi. The talent that he managed out there and the way that he sequenced the work, and we're almost there. We have a couple of challenges, you know, before we're across the finish line. But this district was very blessed to have him leading that field crew. And I'm very grateful for having had an opportunity to work with Brian on this job. So how we got here. So, you know, Tom, Brian, other teammates, you know, we found ourselves in a really fortunate position with our framing and drywallers where they had a couple things go south on them. But what really made that go was Brian and Tom had the building ready. So we were able to load this building up with at times upwards of 50 drywallers, framers and drywallers. But we wouldn't have been able to do that had things not been sequenced in a fashion and the MEPs out in front. You know, it would have been a shame to have all of those guys available, but not be able to put them to work because we weren't ready. And we saw the writing on the wall. We knew we were going to be able to get ahead. And so that was a huge reason that we were able to achieve the milestone that we were able to. It just allowed us to get so far ahead in area by area with the framing and drywall that it just afforded us time on the backside with finishes. And if you've been in the building, we are still knocking off some of the finish work. But Brant's work and Monica's work up front, like I always joke about chopping the vegetables, right? I was chopping vegetables this morning, in fact, thinking about this story. But anyway, it's like, they had to have all that stuff in place for Brian, right? To go to work, to, you know, I call it feeding the machine, right? And Brant and Monica like had everything kind of teed up and queued up so that when we were ready, the materials were there. So how we got here, not to oversimplify it, but it was because of the talent and the hard work and the dedication of this group of people behind me. There's no simpler way of saying it. Safety was always on the forefront of everyone's mind. Being cost conscious of the district dollar was always on the forefront of our mind. Putting in quality work. And everybody here touched that. And so everybody that came into our office, whether it be for the site-specific orientation, they got a flavor of that. They bought into the fact that we're not here just building another building. We're erecting a structure where the future generations are going to be introduced to the formal education for the first time. There's a lot of power in that. And that's a really, really cool thing to be a part of. Really cool thing to be a part of. So yeah, as it relates to what we're going to do as we bring this thing across the finish line in August, we have some decorative metal panels that we have to complete, that we will complete here in the course of the next couple of weeks. We're going through and have already diligently begun knocking out punch list items. We're wrapping up the last of the wall graphics around the kitchen core. Just some of that higher end like finish work where if it gets damaged, we're not going to Home Depot to pick another one off the shelf, right? So we want to be thoughtful. The other thing we wanted to do is we wanted to allow district and staff to move in. And so then we're going to wait till probably that week of like the 19th. To do like the final core painting, right? So when you walk in, that's just going to really pop. And then we'll also have the windows final cleaned here the week of the 19th, 26th, things like that to really turn over what you all deserve, which is a brand new, very clean building that everybody can be proud of. And you know, as much as I hate to admit it, and yeah, things will happen and stuff like that as carts are being moved in, and we fully expect that. So we'll just address those items as they come across as well. But have certainly, I think the team has certainly put us in a very positive position for the month of August, so that as we draw down the line, it is really just dotting the i's and crossing the t's and putting a bow on this beautiful package, really. So that's kind of where we're at. I don't know if you guys would like to add anything. Please feel free, Tom. I know how much you enjoy getting up and speaking.
I just would like to thank all of you. Brings tears to my eyes to hear the story. I was on a walk last week just by happen chance, you know, I do a lot of walking and walk through the playground, which is absolutely amazing. When I see a merry-go-round where a wheelchair can just drive on, it's just the detail and what you have put in for that project is so amazing for kids, and I think I might cry for kids and staff, and I'm so grateful to Monica. She walked out and I think she maybe wanted to shoo me away, and then I introduced myself and she goes, "Oh, come on in." And she took me through the whole building and with a lot of pride and consideration showed me everything, and I just hope we can get the rest of the board out there really soon. So thank you.
Joan, thank you very much for that feedback. It was a lot.
It's beautiful.
Rebecca, would you mind opening up the second attachment? Rich, do you want to talk a little bit about like the punch list process and what that looks like from Bogle?
Yeah, be happy to.
And what you see going on in the next month?
Yeah, be happy to. So from the punch list process, so we essentially did it by area. We Brand coordinated with EUA. He built, just by the way, Brand just built, and he just built a phenomenal rapport with EUA. And when you're able to build that kind of rapport with your design team and keep those open lines of communication, it sure does make life a lot easier. But anyway, Brant pulled together, scheduling the punch list kind of area by area, and that's the way it was walked. So we actually did, depending on the discipline, each respective discipline did their own punch list. So example, Teresa Haas from Ring and Dew came out and did the lighting. Kelly Pamperin from Ring and Dew did the electrical, and all of the own disciplines did their own punch. And then Brand and or Monica and or another Vogel member, I think we had an intern walk one day. We walk around and we document that in Procore. And Procore is our document control software. So once everything is documented within that Procore punch list, they click a button and then it just automatically gets dispersed electronically to everybody, every trade that's got a punch list item on there. And then we also take the extra step because a lot of times the smaller subs, they won't necessarily print out a hard copy for their guide. So we'll also make hard copies available. So the people that are in the field can just come into our office and get the list. So once the list is generated, it's distributed, then the list work begins to get done, on the list. Items begin to get completed off the list, however you want to say it. And then they'll come back with the list and say, hey, we're done. And then they'll schedule time with either Brand, Monica, whoever. And we'll go through and maybe not check every item, but this is the trust and verify step. We'll go through and spot check. Maybe if there's 10 items, maybe we'll look at 5 or 6 kind of thing, right? And then we'll go in and Procore and then we'll sign up. We do the final sign off. We have to have eyes on it before we sign it off to ensure that it's done to our satisfaction, hopefully your satisfaction. And then it'll come off of the list. So that process has begun in earnest. We had a litany of items. I would argue that 75% of them are touch-up paint, and those are being worked on as we speak right now. So that's the process in a nutshell. And that process will more than likely go on here for the next couple of weeks for sure. Again, with move-in happening, things happen. Walls get dinged when you're dealing with carts, when you're moving boxes, when you're moving furniture. So we understand appliances. So we understand that. So that touch-up activity will go on here for the next couple of weeks. So,
and the district end, we worked with SFI to set up last Thursday for the move-in process to begin. Scott was out there for 2 full days. So that worked well. So the principal, Dan Carter, had a color-coded chart of where each of the pallets needed to go, and there was a team that moved everything in. And we have paid all the instructors 2 days worth of additional time in August to come in and prep their room. So we did 2 days in the spring for them to get their room ready to move. Then SFI took it off site, which happens to be in the business park here. Now they're bringing it back. We're asking all instructors to spend 2 days to get their room ready, basically get everything set up. The furniture folks have been a part of our construction meeting, so there's some follow-up that needs to be done there, but we're in a really good spot to welcome students for the first day of school. What you have on the screen here is the tracking document that we've been providing this committee every month. Obviously, you see a very positive situation here where the current total of the contingencies are 2.5 million plus 348,000. There are a few things that are out there. I did put in the notes that we're continuing to evaluate options for entry and exit to the site. So we've had a lot of discussions with the administration at the intermediate school about what has been some of the traffic issues they've been faced with in the past. And we're trying to look and see if we can improve the intermediate school traffic flow, as well as the traffic flow plans for the new heritage. So Roxanne Johnson is looking at some options for us that we're going to circle back to at our next construction meeting. Monica had a chance to go out there and give her input, and so we put some additional signage and other. She's approved one change order that added some additional blacktop at the intermediate school to make it easier to turn to the right. So there's some new signs that have gone in. So we've made a few changes that we think will improve site safety. We still have some work that we're doing there. But you could see the 2.5 million, 348,000. That's going to put the school board in an excellent position to be able to have discussion on other priorities across the district, whether it's a clock, bell, and PA system at Arboretum, or whether it's further investment in the high school as we work through that process. It's going to put us in a really strong position to be able to accomplish more with these funds than we originally thought we'd be able to do. So that's very positive. Are there questions from the committee
Yeah,
members?
Steve,
Go ahead, Jack.
Steve, one of the challenges we had with the intermediate school was the bus area. You know, when the buses moved out, the tail end kind of came over the sidewalk area. You know, so I'm not sure how they corrected that, but I thought what they were talking about is putting lines where kids or people couldn't, you know, walk into that area, you know, from a safety standpoint. Have you made that consideration on bus turns and things like that, and really looked at where the rear end of the bus, if that goes over the sidewalk area?
Sure. So what Jack's referencing is the bus lane is very tight at that property. We are currently working, Jack, Andy's working with Robin at EUA to put together site safety plans. So we're working on a communication to heritage families and a separate one to the intermediate school families. Because it's really critical for us to communicate to whether you're a student walking or biking, whether you're a parent coming to pick up, or whether you're a bus. Everyone needs to stay in the right place. And so we're working on that right now. We're intending to send something out either later next week or the following week. So we are working on that. I wouldn't say that we've changed the pavement area for the intermediate school. What we're focusing on right now is making sure we're separating parent traffic from bus traffic and separating walkers and bikers from bus traffic. We've also got four crossing guards ready to go for that area. So I think we have a very strong safety plan in place. We just need to communicate it and make sure everyone's aware of what we're asking the different individuals to do.
Yeah, I guess what I'm concerned about is when the bus parks in the drop-off area and then they pull out and the bus turns out, the rear of the bus goes over the sidewalk a little bit. And I'm wondering if there's some markings on the sidewalk that says, hey, you know, caution area or stay out of this area.
Sure, we can definitely, Monica.
I would just take a look at it.
Sure, absolutely.
You know, and you know, because I know that was you know, a point of concern with the intermediate school.
Sure, absolutely. We can definitely take a look at that because we are looking at whatever improvements we can make. We want to make them before school starts. So,
And if you don't, I should have some order of magnitude pricing on that wrapped up today that I'm going to send over to you.
okay. Any questions from the board members at all from the Vogel team on the new heritage?
Well, it looks like Vogel came through. You guys did a great job. It looks good. I drove around the site over the weekend, and you know, now all we got to do is get the village to put the rest of the trail in.
They started yesterday.
They're out there.
They're out there. I talked to Jim Miller and his driveway is closed on the 15th. So they must be paving next week already.
God, that's great. Love it when a plan comes together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, what Jack is
I know.
just to share with anyone who might be watching, what Jack is referencing is a new path is being constructed on Woodland Drive, and this path is on the south side. And ultimately, that path that the developer's putting in is going to connect to a path that the village is building. So the village is building a path on a smaller section of property that is then connected to the path that we built. And one of the change orders that was on the screen is we redesigned our site to connect to the path where the village is building theirs. We've also worked very cooperatively with the village, and they're actually gonna build the path on the far eastern side of our site to connect our property to their property, so it's just seamless. So it's all coming together very positively, and then that is connected to the crosswalk location on Ganser, where students are gonna cross onto the new path to enter our property. So that's been a bit of a challenge to really put all that together, but really between the developer, the village, and the district working together, it's gonna look really great for the first day of school.
Yeah, thanks a lot for pushing for that, guys, and doing a great job there.
Anything else at Heritage?
No, just thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming today.
So we should talk about getting the rest of the board out there.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yep.
Maybe Monday night. We have a meeting Monday night. Can we throw out a few dates to you after Monday night?
That'd be great.
Perfect.
That'd be great. Yep, we'll make it happen.
All right.
So
Thanks.
Joan, one
Good
idea
meeting, everybody.
that's come up is the annual meeting night, which
Oh,
is the
yeah, 'cause
Monday
that's-
prior to school
That'd be
starting,
wonderful.
like starting that early.
Yeah,
That's one option the board might consider.
we'll talk about it Monday night and see if we can get on everybody's calendar. Perfect.
Hey, do you think we could have the board meeting in that facility?
It's the annual meeting that we have to get out to the public, so I think we probably need to do it here just in case. But I think it would present the opportunity, since the board members have a meeting already reserved for that night, to probably like start at Heritage, maybe go to the high school and then finish up over here. We've also, of course, done projects at Prairie, Arboretum, et cetera, but we won't have enough time to do all of that one night. But potentially be the night we would want to consider.
Roger.
Okay.
All right.
Well, Adam,
The
Jay,
middle
you wanna
school.
come up?
I don't.
I thought I got to sit in the back row. I will share one quick heritage now that they're gone, so. The 29th was my birthday. My kids took me to Noah's Ark for my birthday. But there's nothing cooler than sitting at Noah's Ark. Went to check my phone, I got a message from Rich saying, we got verbal occupancy, all systems are a go, so. It's a pretty cool birthday present. Yeah, that's awesome.
The really cool facility.
So we're gonna shift gears to the middle school.
Yours doesn't look that great yet, Adam.
I know.
The school's not ready yet.
I think you got some concrete to drop off, don't you?
Some stuff going on.
So I've got a couple of sub-agenda items underneath the middle school, just I broke it out to solar system, and then I wanted to talk a little bit about this federal direct pay reimbursement program and then subcontractor bids. But I'll start with schedule and finances. So I did ask Adam to create a format, Rebecca, if you wouldn't mind opening that up, that follows along the format of what you just explained for Heritage. Now, you did see this at our facility committee meeting that we held last week, where we had brought forward the additional asbestos removal. So Adam has now identified that on this document. And we're going to be continuing to track this every month for the facility committee, just like we've done for Heritage. So you can see the CM contingency, owner contingency, contract amount, and we will continue to present this. Obviously, you did approve the additional asbestos removal last week. I will update the board on that next Monday night. The board meeting, since no action is required from the full board. But Adam, do you want to touch a little bit just on the topic of the schedule, and then we'll jump into those three, like where's the project at, how's it going? Any challenges you run into at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. From a schedule perspective, foundations, we're getting close to wrapping up the south side. We just started our first foundation that was actually within the old elementary school's footprint. So Robinson Brothers has been doing a great job. They're staying ahead of us. We're actually gonna be adding another concrete crew coming in September as we get kind of towards the south and the deeper basement walls, so it'll speed up even more. Utilities have started. We're getting our trailer out there actually next week. We'll be able to start having OEC meetings on site, which is nice, and our whole team can be out there, which I think adds for everyone to be out there. No, besides that, I think Robinson Brothers, you know, we got those change orders to them in time, so they're staying on schedule. And looking towards masonry, getting started next month, and then steel erection the month after, so. Things are going well.
All right, Rebecca, if you want to jump back then to the agenda, the next one.
Hey, Steve, before you jump, what is this Clearwater waste system on that?
Yeah,
Hello?
so,
Yep, thanks, Jack. I'll have Adam jump into that one.
yeah, Jack, so there'll be more to come on that. This is specifically related to all the heat pumps, so part of the geothermal system.
Oh,
Each heat pump has or most of them has a condensate pump, so condensate
okay.
always needs a place to drain. We're trying to potentially add drains, strategically put drains in the floor, so more of those heat pumps could actually gravity drain versus needing a condensate. That's why it's kind of pending. We've had some meetings last week to try to react to a couple of challenges that I think Heritage had with condensate pumps. So that's kind of why that's on there as a pending item.
And
Okay.
ultimately,
Thank you.
it would be an investment now, but long-term wise, if we can eliminate condensate pumps throughout your building from life cycle costs, obviously that's a positive.
Okay. Thanks.
So thank you, Jack. So the next agenda item is not an action item for today. It's just to put this on your radar. So we have actually had some very exciting news about the solar system at Heritage. We turned it on as well last week, and there was a day that John actually sent me a text. I'm just going to grab it and talk about the middle school here with the amount of electricity that was being produced by the solar system. I'm just going to grab that. Rebecca, would you mind opening up that attachment? I'll look for it as we talk about what's in front of you today. So what we have on this attachment is several options that would be available at the new middle school. So they range in different sizes. So there's 3 different sizes that are on the table for discussion. You can see there's this described as large, medium, and small. And there's different kilowatts and different price systems with that. One of the things that Jay brought up a couple meetings ago, just as a reminder, because the bidding process went so well for the middle school, we actually moved back into the budget the ability to purchase a solar system at $750,000. And so we do have options that would be a lower cost than 750. So you see the small array and what the price for that one is. The medium sized one lines up pretty nicely with what we have in there for the budget. And then there's a higher cost one. What John texted me on Friday, he actually said, we're making money on energy yesterday. There was a negative use of electricity last Friday. He sent me a screenshot of the solar system that the solar actually produced more energy last Friday than energy that was used in the building to operate it. So we've got that one up and running, and we're going to see some really positive long-term results from that investment. So there's 3 different ranges. If we want to stay within the original budgetary allocation that we've now been able to add in, we would look at that medium array. But we could go smaller, we could go larger. There's just options for consideration. We're not at the point where we have to decide on this. I just want to put it on your radar. That just like at Heritage at some point, the construction team is gonna look for information on where do we think we're going with this, so it can start being designed as to where it's gonna go on the roofs. One of the really neat things about the Heritage site is that we work together with the construction team, so you can actually see some of the solar panels. And other schools that I've toured, you can't see them at all, so you don't really know they're there. But at Heritage, some of them you can see are there off of one of the sight lines from the second story, so that's a cool feature of the school. We would look to see if any opportunities at the same thing at the middle school. But here's the 3 ranges that are available. We're going to talk a little bit about the federal reimbursement in the next agenda item, which does apply to solar. But this is kind of the ranges that we're talking about. And at some point, we want to bring this back for further discussion. Jackie?
Steve, are we selling the electricity back to the electric grid, or, you know, if we're producing more than we use, can we sell that back, or are we just putting it into battery storage someplace?
So we did not purchase battery storage for the system, and that's something we would need to look into. We don't have the ability to sell power back. So when John was using the term making money, basically just that we didn't have utility expenses for electrical on that day.
Yeah.
But
no, I understand that.
A battery system is something that has come up as a possible consideration for us to look at for our schools, because that's where we could store it, store the energy. So it's something we can definitely look into.
Thank you.
But we will come back to this at a later point. I just wanted to kind of put it on your radar as a future decision. And Rebecca.
One just quick thing to add here, Steve, too. So the building is designed to accommodate any of the 3 sides, so there's no changes that need to be made to the building structure. So.
Jay, in relationship to what we just did at Heritage, which one would you say we would be matching?
Medium, I believe, right, Steve? Because we started with small Heritage and then it popped up once we were
The medium.
some financial position. So.
Thank you.
Okay, the next agenda item as well is not an action item, but it will be, and I will describe this as a very significant decision that the board is going to have to make. So back in the spring, the board approved for Allie and I to work with 2 professionals. One of them is Withley, which is a CPA firm, and the other one is a law firm out of Madison that specializes in energy and federal reimbursements. Since then, we've worked with that team to put all of the necessary requirements in place for the solar system that we approved for Heritage and the expansion at the intermediate school. So we've got all of those agreements all ready to go. And next summer, we're going to be able to submit for the federal direct pay for those 2 systems that we put in place. However, there are significant resources available for construction of like a geothermal system. We have the ability to apply, for example, for federal reimbursement for the geothermal system for like the new middle school. The challenge with that is with all federal programs, there are significant requirements that go along with them. The Vogel team has been a part of these conversations to learn about what are those requirements. The most costly requirement is to change the labor rate for all the individuals that are working on the construction of like the geothermal system to what's known as like a prevailing wage. It's a wage rate that's not determined by like the district or Vogel or even the firms that are bidding in. It is not determined by any of us. It is a rate that we have to go find And then Vogel is now going back to all of the contractors that are involved in the geothermal and are saying, okay, if the district decides to do this, if we decide to try to seek these funds, what is the difference between what you put in for the pipe fitters? That's probably not the right term. Maybe it's one of the right terms. Close enough. And what you bid their costs to be. So Adam right now is going through and is working with the subcontractors involved to try to figure that out. Our intention is to put that in front of you. And it's not an easy decision because we would be asking the board to potentially additional intent to apply for a federal reimbursement that as of today, we know is there. However, things change with the federal government. And so there is a risk. There's definitely a risk when we put funds out. The one thing about the direct pay program is we cannot apply for it until the summer after the building has been opened. So when you think about the middle school, we will not be able to apply for that until July after the September that it opens. A lot can change in the federal government and with politics between now and then. So we would be making you to, have to make a decision between, let's just say hypothetically, paying $500,000 more in wages now with the concept of being reimbursed $2 million later. And so we want to make sure you have all the information, but there's no question that that's going to be a big decision that the board ultimately has to make. With solar, it was pretty easy. The reason why solar was pretty easy is the wages that were bid and what the wages were on that proposal that you just saw are basically aligned with prevailing wage. So Westfall is the company that was giving us those wages. Their agreements of what they compensate their staff for are very, very close, if not depending on the person, maybe higher than what prevailing wages are. So the solar is easy for us to do. The geothermal is not.
And it also,
Steve, when
Yeah.
when do we have to make this decision? Is it the next couple of months? Is it November, December? When do we have to make this decision?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what we're intending to do is to present all of that information to you as soon as we can get it. And then I can ask our legal team as far as what would be a date by which that decision would need to be made. Because the wages have to get paid throughout the project. And there's very specific federal requirements as far as what you have to do if you have to go back and correct wages. So we can get that for you. We obviously don't want to put the board in a position where you're being forced to make a decision before you want to. But like at a high level, it's just important to know that basically there would be a wage increase coming that we would have to agree to now for the hope of putting in this claim quite a bit down the road. We know the system is there today, but we as a district have had things happen to us before where we have seen federal reimbursements cut for programs that we committed to. An example of that was 2010, we participated in what's called a QSCB loan on the expansion of the high school with the second story. The federal government committed upfront to a certain level of reimbursement for the interest, and that got cut over time. So it's just important to know that we can tell you about the program the way it exists today, but we also have to acknowledge there are risks involved one way versus another. And this is not gonna be like a right answer, wrong answer thing. This is gonna be a, how do you as a board feel about pursuing these funds? We haven't even talked about the heritage situation regarding these funds because that's super complicated. I'll just save that for now. We're having future discussions on what we might be able to do with heritage. And the one other thing I'll say about the program is you can go into this and just say, we're not meeting any of these requirements and put in for a 6% reimbursement. So we have the ability to go in and put a 6% request in. Meeting the requirements puts us up into the 30% range. So we can share the numbers with you, where if we don't meet any of the requirements, we could put in for X. If we meet the requirements, we could put in for X. And then ultimately you as a board can weigh in on this. We were intending to try to get this to you for this meeting, but the federal regulations have recently, the final ones have recently come out. And our auditing and legal team has been working with Vogel's team just to get all of the correct information ready for this. So future agenda item, but it's a pretty important one.
What's the approximate percentage of prevailing wage right now difference?
When you say,
It's by trade. For this particular, you know, you
Yeah,
said
so-
for solar it was kind of complicated.
Yeah.
For this one, percentage wise, you must have an idea. Oh, it's this.
so in terms of the work, it's specifically to the geothermal work.
Yes.
Now, there is electrical components that are part of that, which on the electrical side, so it's really the specialty subcontractor on the geothermal. I would guess it's in the 20 to 25% range. There is also an apprenticeship requirement that's part of this. A percentage of hours by apprentices. And if, they don't meet that currently, which they likely won't, then they have to add additional apprentices that then potentially aren't putting work in place the way the rest of the crew is, and that's the cost of that perspective.
Okay.
What we're really trying to thread the needle on is the exact wage rate for the specific roles and how that applies to like the village for the geothermal pipe fitters and all those trades.
So I think we'll bring this back at the September meeting. Jack, I'll get the answer to your question from our attorney as far as like timing on all of this, and then we can have a better discussion with some numbers in front of you.
Understood. Thanks.
Contractor bids, Adam, Rebecca, would you mind opening that up? And Adam, do you want to jump into that?
Yeah. So this should be our last list of subcontractor bids for the middle school. I'll run down the list fairly quick. If people have questions, I'm still happy to answer them. Curb and gutter, so this is the exterior. Curbs around the parking lot, sidewalks. We had multiple bidders. Raymond Picatel was the contractor Heritage as well. Back with that number, the polished concrete and epoxy floor. So similar to Heritage, we have those two floor finishes that I see in the hallways with the polished concrete, some staining, epoxy floor, and ag labs. Millwork is essentially fabrication of all the casework and cabinets, wood paneling. Wisconsinville was also on Heritage, so some lessons learned we can carry over. Stainless and epoxy countertops. So some of the rooms have essentially you can call specialty countertops. The science rooms have epoxy, kind of like a chemical resistant counter. The stainless countertops are in the FACE rooms, so like food prep type spaces. So those are coming from Wayne Jones. Air barrier and waterproofing. Xander does a lot of our work in that scope. That's kind of the outside of the building, making sure that it's watertight on the walls. Doors, frames, and hardware. So we do have two suppliers listed here. The reason being, we're down to some final details to decide who we want to select. We're asking the committee for approval to proceed with either one, and we could, confirm that with the administration. We'd be happy to come back the next meeting just to follow up with who we selected, but that's the reason we've got two listed there, just working through some final scope items. Wood gym floor. We had 3 really close bids for this scope. I feel confident with Schmidt Athletic flooring. Painting, so similar to doors, frames and hardware, I've got 3 bidders listed here. We know, we're very confident in one bidder's number that they have all the scope. The other 2 seem to have all the scope, but we're still just working through final details. This also has the wall coverings and some other graphics components to it. So just want to make sure that we have all that covered. So again, we're asking the committee for approval to proceed with any of those 3, which came in under budget, and could follow up with who was selected next meeting if people want it.
I think both those and the doors frame, none of them are local, so there's not any tie in there.
Yeah, to that. For signage, so this is the interior room signs and then some exterior signs. Creative Sign Company was also the vendor on Heritage. So it makes sense. They were also low, but to have them come through on this project as well. Specialties and display boards. So specialties are toilet partitions, paper towel dispensers, fire extinguisher cabinets, and then display boards are like whiteboards, tack boards, marker boards. LaForce was also on Heritage. It was the low bidder there. Window shades. So there's some manual shades, some motorized shades. Again, we had good bidder participation, and the low bidder was commercial shading systems. Music casework. So the music rooms has some specialty casework for storage of instruments. Winker was the specified product there, and they were low. Asphalt striping, so the parking lot paving and the road around the backside of the building. Payne and Dalton was competitive. They're also part of the Bracy kind of umbrella company. And I believe they have an asphalt plant in Waunakee, so they're considered local. And then landscaping and some retaining walls. The Bruce Company provided a full scope package. It was the most competitive there. And they were also the company selected at Heritage. So that was the list of questions.
On the wall graphics. So we had a lot of issues with the wall graphics at Intermediate. I'm assuming they're different. I noticed them Heritage when they did a walkthrough and they're beautiful. They're guarantee on those when they don't feel good.
Yes, so I don't know all the details, Jerome, but I do know that we mapped with Schnauzer, UA, and thankful for the district in terms of there's a couple different installation methods we've used to make sure we don't, and I think a couple different products, but I don't know, Steve or Scott, if you're involved in those.
What I would like to see is what we're trying to do at Intermediate right now is they're on the edges and everything like that. Kids sit and pick at them.
Yeah.
So I would like to see corner guards, edge guards, anything like that on that to eliminate picking.
That's a good idea. Because when I saw them, they were actually putting one on when I walked through, and again, it is not a very thick piano, and
It's basically a wallpaper. is what
Yeah.
I was told.
yeah, but kind of a vinyl
Yeah.
wallpaper. And I know has the Intermediate has that. I know that was part of the work that we approved.
Yeah.
Have you done the Intermediate?
It's not done yet, but yes, we're working toward it. I gotta get one of the vocals.
Okay.
On it.
Okay, I just wanted to be mindful of a problem we have and as we move forward with more wall coverings.
Yeah, and that was brought, that's one of the reasons why we're taking a extra time with those 3 to make sure. All is right.
Any other questions?
I don't have any questions. You, Jack?
Nope.
Motion to approve the subcontractors or speculative ones as presented.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. All right, so, high school and Bethel Circle projects.
So Rebecca, would you mind opening that up? So we've been attending the construction meetings as well at the high school that Will was putting on. Scott's been attending as well. this is the change log, that you see in front of you. One of the discussions we had last week, just so you're aware, the auditorium, the old auditorium, the seats were put back. And there was discussion over, the flooring that would go in underneath the seats. The
old
plans.
seats.
The new, yeah, new seats.
Yeah, the new
They're
seats.
new
So, yeah.
seats.
Yeah, carpeting was designed to go along the side, or the outside, basically of the old auditorium, but, and then there was a finish that was to be applied to underneath the seats. We've made the decision that we want to see a change order to carpet the old just to have the whole place look so much nicer. Scott brought up the look of the finish, and we had a good discussion. The principal has requested to have it be carpeted. I think if we go to the high school as part of the picture of it, I think if we go to the high school, we can look at the small odd when we do the tour. Cause we'll see a change order potential at some point on that one. So there's a picture that Ted has that he could show you where you could see what the current finish underneath the seating looks like. And so that discussion we want to have, but it won't happen by the start of the school year. So.
Are those purple seats?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. We finally get some purple in our school.
So some folks have noticed there's a lot of green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Green in the district, including the high school. So, yeah, one of Monica's observations in the commons was the green that was in there, and she put in a couple of requests to swap some color changes out to just make it look better.
Yeah.
So we've done some of that.
So what's the cost differential between what we put in versus the carpeting, or does that come to the next meeting?
We don't have that yet, but I don't know, Jay, can you speak to what the finish was that was going for?
Yeah, so Jack, we're still finalizing what the final carpet selection is gonna be, but it's gonna be probably pretty close to a wash, because the original flooring specified was an epoxy flooring, but due to the existing moisture content underneath the slab, we were not able to put that original floor in. But the seats, we had a 3-day install window for the seats, otherwise they couldn't come back till like end of August. And we didn't want to risk waiting until the end of August. So that's why we made a decision to go ahead and get the seats in, let the district make a decision in terms of what to do there, and then we can pull the seats out, put the carpet in, and put it right back in. But yeah,
Understood.
we'll have final budgetary numbers for what that looks like.
Okay.
And as far as the rest of the project, you again see that the change order log, the big change we had talked about earlier, which was reducing the scope of what we were going to do this summer at the high school. And then we've had some things that have come up at Bethel Circle. We've talked about them before. The village viewed the parking lot install as kind of a new project. So we had to put the bleacher enclosure off to the side, like you would put if you built a brand new school or a brand new building. It's gonna look nice when it's done, but we had to do a few change orders to meet those requirements, including the lighting in the parking lot. So you've seen those before. But basically the projects are moving along. We're continuing to attend the meetings every week to weigh in. Monica's been joining us and has been weighing in on the change orders that are under 50,000. And so things are going pretty well. I don't know, Jay, did you have anything you wanted to add on the high school or Bethel?
The only thing with Bethel, you'll see on there's an undercutting line item that's bold, still listed as pending of $18,000. So that's at the existing parking area. That's our best guess right now, but ultimately, maybe even by the end of this week, early next week, they're gonna do what's called a proof roll. So once the grading is complete out here, they bring in a loaded triaxle truck, and that truck drives over, and if the ground yields at all, so if it moves at all, then we need to remove those areas, dig down deeper, put some stone in and build it back up, so then you have a good base.
So that's right now our best guess to what that's gonna be worth, but we'll know more once we do that proof roll. Third-party inspector actually reviews that proof roll. And then I think the plan is to have Scott.
I would like
as
to
well.
watch too, because I used to watch proof rolls in my previous career.
A question on the high school.
So do you,
Go ahead, Jack.
no, go ahead.
I also gave myself a tour through the high school after I did heritage. I thought, oh, I'll just go tour the whole district. Gave myself a little tour. Are we doing, I know we've ordered new furniture for the Lomtech, the library area. Are we doing carpet there? No. So the carpet that was there stays there.
The furniture is being installed today.
Yeah, there was a lot of discussion on the library, and in the end, we made the decision to let the larger process go forward because
Okay,
in a newer high school design, the library is never located where our current library is.
and
So
I knew
there's-
we had some of that discussion
Yeah.
and I walked in there and really nothing had happened
Yeah,
yet.
so we decided to hold on any discussions about what a longer term high school library would look like. There were a lot of ideas that were brought forward with small workspaces for students and everything else, and we just decided we needed to put all that on
So it's
pause.
just new furniture.
It's just the furniture. That was the original scope of the referendum, was furniture replacement, and we just kept it at that.
Okay,
And that could be redeployed, obviously, if
right.
library locations.
That's a good one.
Scott, you're interested in the proof roll. Is there some debate as to whether how they do it, the outcomes, or you just interested because it's what
I
you
just want to put in my 2 cents about from a district side of things. Because they, even though CGC, right, that's who's coming in to do it, I just want to see if I agree with them. That's it.
Jack, did you have a question?
No, you guys answered it. Do you need approval on this or is this just information?
And then just in terms of overall financials, I think right now the plan would be to come back in October with the final numbers for Heritage. Obviously, Steve alluded to the contingency log for Heritage. And then our goal is to do the same for the high school and district office projects. So then in October, we'd have an idea of how much money could potentially be redeployed to other district stuff next summer.
Okay, thank you.
And Rebecca, if you want to jump back to the agenda, please, and then consideration of capital projects. So can you put the tracking document up first, and we'll just go on to the very top part of it. If you want to just make it a little bit bigger. Jay's been helping us with this, they're basically what gets approved at all of these meetings, and as we've talked in the past, we started with the original amount of the referendum. The direction from the board was to pursue the maximum interest funds available. So Ally and I have been moving forward with that, working with both Vogel and PMA, our investment firm. On the interest, we did move a long time ago, some funds over from the Heritage Project when we created the guaranteed maximum price. So we've been working with the numbers on the top to move forward with district-wide maintenance projects. So after the small amount of items we brought forward last month, we have 216,000 remaining. What Jay just talked about is a perfect teeing it up to this, because what Jay's referring to is in October, does this committee want to make a recommendation to potentially move some or all of the heritage contingency into here, which would then allow us to start a discussion over, as an example, the Arboretum, clock bell and PA system, whether we wanted to do something like that or not. So that's an October discussion. But right now we're at about 216,000 remaining. There's a few things that I asked Scott to be able to be here to speak about. Rebecca, if you could open the other attachment. just some additional things that have come up in the last month.
Can I make a comment on
Sure.
your tracking sheet? And I don't want to give anybody more work to do. But would it be possible to add another column of when things are complete? So we kind of know where we are with this.
Yeah, I do have a program that I have that listed. Steve is on that, it's called Asana. It's kind of a project management thing, but
You and I could just circle with this.
yeah, I mean.
If it's possible, you know, because we read it each month and it's like,
Yep,
I'd like to know which projects are still
Yeah.
hanging out
and,
there.
and I do on my own,
Yeah,
but
and I
you
assume
guys
that-
don't see
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
sounds good.
You mentioned in October, talking about moving the contingent, like whether we should move those contingency funds to this. If we didn't move it to here, what happens with them?
Sure, yeah, there's a couple options under state law as to what can be done. First of all, one of them is the board doesn't have to approve $175 million worth of borrowing. So as an example, if you wanted to borrow 173 instead of 175, then that could be done. So that's one option. The referendum only gives the board the authority to borrow up to that amount. The second thing is proceeds can be used from the borrowing to reduce the tax levy. So as an example, the budget committee could absolutely look at, let's say, utilizing whatever the dollar amount is, 500,000, $1 million to reduce the tax levy this fall. So under state law, that's another option, like interest earnings can be used to reduce the tax levy. So I would say the choices would be further investment and maintenance, short the ultimate borrowing, or use it to reduce the tax levy are the three main options available.
Steve, is October soon enough timing for you guys to be able to make?
Yeah. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be done this October. And the next round of the borrowing, we will need those funds for the middle school. It's more so with like borrowing, whether you would borrow to get to 175 or borrow a little bit less. Okay. So what you see in front of you is a list of 120,000. These are additional requested projects. It's a smaller list. Our team has got their hands full of what's already been approved, but basically there have been some things that have come up, like as Scott was working on doing the stairs to the press boxes, you know, things have come up like the railing. So do you want to touch on this at all?
It's like
Scott?
press box railings. This came up after the build of the new press box stairs and everything. Vogel did them. They're perfect. But the inspector came in and said, we need railings to make it safe. Otherwise, Vogel cannot sign off and say complete. It's still open. So we need railings, just like I don't know if you've ever went to the football ones near where they keep their pads and everything. It's just metal railings. We do have the railing, but it's less wide. You have to be able to get your hand around it to grab it. So it's just a steel tube. So I need them done. Any questions on that? I did see one thing here. Prairie, that ceiling is the wrong type of ceiling. It's a wall ceiling. It's a product they put on the wall to seal up from water. It is leaking. And that came from Northern Europe. Also good in there.
So the engineering at Arboretum, that refers to that water that came in that. Where the carpet was damaged.
Yes, that would be, well, maybe Roxanne, yeah, professional engineering.
So the first time I went out there to see the flood damage, the first thing Scott said was, we need to fix this long term. And at that time I said, okay, let's get it fixed now and then I'll circle back with Roxanne. So I will give Scott credit for the idea, which was, we need to find out what we have to do so this doesn't happen again, because similar rainfall, the same thing's gonna happen.
Right.
All gonna come over, it's gonna go down to the low spot.
Comes from the open field right
Yeah.
now, over the road and right down into the school.
Yeah, so this is really Scott's idea, I'll give him credit for it. I just worked with Roxanne, I've got the proposal from her, it's the most expensive item on here, but it includes all of the site surveying and work that needs to be done to really design the engineering behind getting the water away from the school. So this was really put on there to come up with a long-term solution. We also have an issue on Warrior Stadium where water is pooling into the electrical and data boxes on the field. We're not sure if this is related to something, the little pieces of the turf that, is it gone into the system and clogged it up? Is it the design needs to be looked at, but it's created a bit of an potentially an unsafe environment where when people have to reach in there to have water in there. So we're looking at getting that. So those two are proposals from Roxanne to do the engineering for those.
Not only unsafe, but the possibility that something may not work during game day. And that people, like that.
Okay, anybody have any questions, further questions? So you need approval of this new list.
Make a motion to approve this list of maintenance projects.
Second, Jack? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Jack.
Yeah.
All right.
And so next Monday night, we'll bring the subcontractors for the middle school forward. We'll bring the capital maintenance request forward. And we'll chat at the board meeting about possibly the annual meeting date and getting to the new heritage site and then maybe over to the high school.
Yeah.
I think we probably need to start that around like 5:30-ish if we want to hit both schools.
Okay.
So something like that.
That's good. All right, and we'll schedule the September meeting on Monday. All right, so I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.